Oh, okay, let's keep everyone muted while we're waiting. And while we're waiting, if everyone wants to jump in the chat and say where they're on the call from, what kind of brand they're starting, or anything else they want to share, we can do that while we wait for everyone to join. I'm going to get started in like 2 or 3 more minutes. So we have Sumana from Philadelphia, USA, Kim from South Africa, Kelsey from Georgia, Risky from New York. Sorry, everyone, if I mispronounce your names incorrectly. Katie from Wisconsin, starting a slow fashion brand. Kieran from Trinidad and Tobago. Avni from Atlanta, Georgia. Ollie from California. Can share what kind of brand you're working on too. That would be helpful for everyone. Megan from Montana. Agnes from Germany. Kim starting an eco slow resort line. Kieran swimmer brand for full busted women. Megan women active period wear. Holly plus size athletic wear. Kelsey gothic Lolita Japanese fashion. Sumana business casual for tall women. Matriski undergarments for women. Okay, cool. Let's get started. So a few things before we get going. I'm not going to be answering any questions that people ask that revolve around, tell me a good supplier, how do I find a supplier, or any kind of mix of that. And that's because for an entire year, I've been doing this specific type of coaching, group coaching for since 2020 now. Before that, I only worked one-on-one with people. So I would do all of their sourcing for them and work with them one-on-one. What happened during the pandemic was way too many people were starting brands and there's only one of me. So I created kind of group coaching systems so I could help more people. For an entire year, because everyone insisted all they needed was a supplier list, and I knew that's not what they needed, I sold a supplier list for $300. And the success rate of people who actually launched their brand from that list was 0. Launch My Conscious Line has over, I just did the math actually before this call, a 17% success rate. To put that into perspective, for online courses, generally only 5% actually complete the course and less than 1% are successful in what they take the course for. Launch My Conscious Line is 17% successful brands. What you need is not a supplier. You need so many other things that you don't even know you need. So if your question was, and a lot of you asked, help me find a supplier, I'm not going to get into that. But what I did realize, and while you're trying to get a supplier, there were some red flags for me that are things that we should talk about and you should be working on. So I'm going to be focusing on those things. Speaking of suppliers, if you're a supplier, you can go ahead and leave right now. The last call that I did like this, I had someone who was a supplier who actually tried to DM every person in the call and get them to work with them. On the topic of suppliers, still, if anyone is finding you on Facebook, sliding into your DMs, sketchy behavior like this, the Facebook groups, these are not places to be meeting suppliers. There's a reason why they're desperate for business and they're aggressively going after you. And that's probably because they have no idea what they're doing or they have a very bad reputation. So please don't meet any suppliers on Instagram, in DMs, in Facebook groups, or in anything like this where someone's like, oh, I'm a supplier, I can help you. That is definitely not the place. I have resources on how to find suppliers, blog posts, and lots of other stuff. I just did a $200 credit with Swatch On, who's credible. There are better places to find people to help you. Not anything shady like that. Okay, so I think that covers everything. Oh, at the end, I'm going to be giving away a 50% discount to one person on the call for the Launch My Conscious Line program. So everyone who's interested will just raise their hands and I'll pick someone. We'll do the raffle and you have to be live to do it. And then I'll also be giving a $300 discount just to everyone at the end if you're interested, if you don't win the raffle and you still want a discount. So that's everything. I'm going to jump into the questions because we have a lot of questions and not a lot of time. Okay. So the first question is from Agnes. I'm Agnes and I want to start an ecologic conscious line for ritual work like spiritual women priestesses from all different directions, maybe yoga, pagan, witch, light worker. I work myself in the spiritual field and have already a name and logo, which I can use also for the line. There will be just a few items, one skirt, one dress, one or two tops, and maybe one kimono. Okay, I like that. It's good to start small and test and then grow from there. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. It should be from organic fabric, no color or plant-based color, a bit of hand-printed symbols and or embroidery. This can be also individual orders. So if you are hand printing symbols or using colored embroidery threads, you will have color and plant-based color. So that's something to keep in mind because if you need something to print the symbols with, right? You can have tone on tone embroidery. So you could have something all white and have white embroidery, but printing you need some sort of color or bleach. This can also be used for individual orders, and we can talk about the logistics of that. I'm not sure how much I need. I know some women's circles yoga teachers in Europe, they would love it. I have done a few research. There's nothing like it on the market. I want to create flattering, emphasizing the female beauty, flows in beautiful natural colors and organic fabric. I would love to produce in Europe, thinking of using linen, hemp, wool. Budget is very low, just a few €1,000. My question is just, what would be the first steps? Can I start at home on my own for the first items? Where do I find fabrics or what to look for? So we're not going to talk about that. Actually, what we're going to talk about is your research. So before you even start reaching out to suppliers, you should have the research done. From what you've described to me, it doesn't sound like anything that hasn't been done before. I work with quite a few like spiritual brands like this. And I don't hear anything that you're saying, and maybe your designs are completely unique, but I would encourage everyone to Google, Etsy, Instagram. Almost every time someone tells me they've created something that no one else has ever thought of before, I'm able to find it in like under 5 minutes on Google. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do your idea. It just means you need to focus more on your branding and how your branding is going to differentiate you. So I would start there and really start thinking about your branding and how that's going to be different than all of the other ritual work brands and all of the other spiritual brands and all that out there. I would then also have, before you even start thinking about, reaching out to people, you're saying maybe one shirt, maybe two shirts, I'm not sure. I would narrow down your design assortment and know exactly what it is that you want to make and what you want to make it in. Do you want linen? Do you want hemp? Do you want wool? Those are 3 different supply chains. That's not the same supply chain. So before you go out and you start, I don't know what I want, I'm just going to see what comes back. It's better to have a clear idea of what it is that you want and then go for that. A lot of times people are like, I need knit cotton fabric. And I look at their product and I'm like, you absolutely don't need that. You need a woven fabric that's made out of synthetics or whatever it is. So I would say really the way you design is you back into the fabrics. So first you figure out your end product, you figure out the usage, you figure out the performance of whatever it is that you need, and then you work backwards. And then you find your fabric supplier. So I would focus more on that before the fabric supplier because it sounds like you have a rough idea, but everything isn't kind of worked out yet. Can you start at home on your own for the first items? If you can sew, then absolutely, why not? The only thing with that is if you're spending your entire days sewing, you're not working on building your business and the marketing aspect of it. Creating a line, starting a brand, a lot of people think it's design, a lot of people think it's sourcing. I think when a lot of people start, they think that like 90% of the job will be design because that's the fun part for most people. And then when they get going, they think 90% is going to be the manufacturing because that's what they struggle with to understand the most. And in reality, 90% of your time should be spent on marketing, sales. Everything else is a very little component. And successful brands that I have, like it's just all about sales and marketing. So reevaluate your time as well. And then, if you want to start and it's the cheapest way to get going because your budget is small, definitely start sewing, but have a plan for when you're ready to start. You're not going to be able to grow while you're sewing. You'll be able to test, which is great. See what works, see what doesn't. Maybe some styles won't be as well received as you thought. Well, at least you didn't make 100 pieces of them. Then once you have tested that with whatever you've sewn yourself, the good pieces that you've created that people are liking and enjoying and buying, those are the ones that you move into production. And a lot of brands do this. And more people are going to ask this question, but we'll just do it now and we'll kind of skim over it later on. What every brand, every company in the world does is test. from Walmart to small brands that I've worked with, like Nilly Lotan and all of them, everyone has something called a test order. Walmart would order 1,000,000 pieces. When they were testing, they'd order 10,000. If it was a new product, they'd test the pieces, they'd see how they sold. If they didn't sell well, they wouldn't order more. Now, of course, their core items that they know do well, they bought 1,000,000 of and they didn't think twice about it. But new items that they were unsure about, they tested, and everyone needs to test. The problem is you're a new brand, you don't have any data to figure out what's doing well. So you have to create your own testing, which is starting small, like with the pieces you're making at home, seeing what does well, and then placing your order. That's how you do it. Readjust your mindset, because a lot of people think that I have really good taste and people like my clothes, so they'll sell. That's a really bad way to go into this. The best buyers in the industry, people who are placing the orders, typically don't even work in their category. Women tend to do really well with like men's ties and watches because they are just looking at data and then they're purchasing based on the data. It's all data. And even trends, they are extremely predictable and they are based on prior year's sales. So everything is based on data in this industry. It's not as creative as you think. I think a lot of people believe that it is because of social media and like the news and stuff, but it's really data and you want to get as much data as you can. So those would be my tips for you. Okay, the next question is Holly. My name is Holly. I'm looking to start a plus size support legging, capri, and short for running, focusing on sizes 12 to 24, former athletes turned moms, or whoever who needs support on the lower stomach area, not just post-baby, but the lower belly that doesn't seem to go away. MOQ is still confusing to me. See my question below. I'm so new to this. Location is to be determined. Your budget's $10,000. MOQ, I'm still confused. If the MOQ is 100 and I'm making a black legging, is that 100 per size 12, 100 per size 14, etc., and so on? Or could you mix up sizes within the 100 pieces? Yes, you can mix up sizes within the 100 pieces. So if you want to make 100 black leggings, typically with a 100-piece order, the factory is going to give you 5 sizes. If you're making 50 or less, or anything really less than 100, they're only going to allow you 3 sizes because it's a mess if they're trying to make all these sizes in that small quantity. It's essentially a sample order. So at 100 pieces, if you're making 100 black leggings, they should give you 5 sizes. Anything over that, they'll probably charge you more. So that's how you do it. If you want to make 100 black and 100 blue, your MOQ is not 200 pieces. It's still 100. So that's how MOQ works. It's super confusing, but it's important to get right, because if you tell a factory your MOQ is 100 pieces and then you're like, I want 20 red, 20 blue, 20 white, whatever, they're going to be like, we're not working with you. Or they're going to be like, cool, your $20 legging just went up to $50. So you want to make sure you get that right when you start talking to factories. On that note, don't mess around with your MOQs. Everyone always wants to pretend. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I watch a lot of TikTok videos, and everyone is always saying like, oh, don't tell them your MOQ. Wait until the end, until you've started sampling. That is a great way to lose money. And that's a great way to burn bridges. Be honest and do your budgeting. Oh, I don't know what I want. If you don't know how much you want, don't reach out to a supplier. You're not ready. Know how much you want, and you have to do the budgeting work first. Figure what that is, and then you reach out to people and you be honest with them. Maybe they're not going to work with you. That's okay, because there are suppliers that will, and you keep that supplier in your back pocket for when you are bigger. Me personally, I'm starting a new brand. I don't know if any of you are following along on Instagram. I have levels of suppliers already. So I'm starting with this supplier. When I want to do the next level of my business, I'm going to go to this supplier. And when I get really big, I'm going to go to this supplier that I know I want to work with. I've had meetings with all of them so far, very transparently. In the first email, I said, I am nowhere near ready to work with you. Here's my plan. I want to work with you in the future. Maybe because of who I am, they were interested in taking the call. If they didn't know who I was, they probably would have said, cool, thank you for your email. Reach out to us when you're ready. And that's fine. Same with so that's kind of MOQ. Always be honest. You're going to burn bridges. The industry is also small. People start to talk. You don't want to be one of those people. So, that's promising big orders and going from supplier to supplier. I know the brands in India that do that. We all kind of know. So keep things honest. All right. Kieran, Under businesses underpinnings, which operated as a physical bra fitting boutique in the Caribbean for full busted and post mastectomy women for 10 years. Closed physical store in January 2024 and transitioning the business model. Brand to start, supportive but sexy swimwear for full busted women. MOQ 20 per style, starting with a capsule collection of 2 to 3 styles. Production location open to suggestions, LA or New York for ease and reach it to the Caribbean. Bali if the price benefit is significant, even including shipping and duties to the US. Budget is $4,000. Question, considering full busted target market, shipping and import duties to Miami, would it be better to engage a factory in the US or Bali? Or is there anywhere else I should look? So with a 20-piece MOQ, the shipping isn't going to be worth it because you're going to have to send samples to them and then they're going to send swatches to you. And then you're gonna send stuff back to them, and then they're gonna make a fit sample and they're gonna send it back to you. And then they're gonna be a revision, so it's gonna go back. And then they're gonna make an SMS sample and they're gonna send it to you, but there's gonna be more revision, so then it's gonna have to go back. You're going to be sending a lot of stuff back and forth in the mail. When you haven't done this before, you really want to work with someone close that you can just go down the road to. It's going to cost more money. That initial invoice is going to be a lot, but when you add up each layer of sampling and back and forth and shipping, it often becomes more money to get that. Ooh, if I make it in China, if I make it in Bali, if I make it wherever, it's only $15. If I make it locally, it's 25. Your shipping is going to eat away all of that, especially for 20 pieces and not knowing what you're doing right now. Like you want to work with someone local where you can actually work things out because communication is really hard when you're doing it over Zoom and you're not standing there together fitting. So I would say make locally and then find there are tailors in the Caribbean, find a tailor, make your pattern. And then maybe once everything is perfect, the pattern, the fit, the everything, then you could send it to, I would probably do it in the United States. There aren't a lot of good suppliers in Bali that are doing 20 pieces. Bali also has to import all of their fabrics. They import them all from China at the end of the day. So it's essentially a Chinese product made in Bali. So you're not, it's I am not a huge fan of making in Bali. I have a few clients who do. Most of them get fed up and they move their product to China. That's usually the natural progression of things, to be completely transparent. People want to go to Bali because they want to go on vacation. If that's you, maybe just go on the vacation and make your product where it makes more sense. Okay, so that would be my, and then with a budget of $4,000, it's not really realistic after you spend all the money on the patterns. And if you were shipping things, I mean, you could blow through $2,000 just shipping patterns and samples and going through the development process with Bali. You probably spend 4,000 if I'm going to be honest, if things don't go exactly perfect the first time. So I would maybe start with one style. I would do it really well. I would make it in one color and I would start with that and see how it does and then move on to more as that starts to sell with the $4,000 budget. Okay, next we have Maja. Interested in starting a lingerie collection. We would like to make our product in France or Portugal or Mexico, an MOQ of 20 pieces for 20 styles. Our total budget is 50,000. How to calculate a realistic budget for a fashion startup. After watching your video, I would like to clarify my question about budget. Have you sent a lot of instructions? You have sent a lot of instructions about production. I would like to know how to budget the cost outside of production and arriving to the sales. So I don't know if you need 20 styles to start. I think that's aggressive, and I think you might get a lot of stuff wrong. You might find that people hate the cut or the fit of your bottoms. Yeah, you've got probably 10 styles of bottoms that you have to get rid of and sell. I would maybe start with like 5 tops and 5 bottoms for 10 styles total. Make sure people like what you're doing and then invest more. It doesn't matter if you have $50,000 to essentially waste. No one should be wasting their money. You should be always working strategically and cost effectively. So making your first collection, a lot is going to go wrong. Everyone always kind of hates their first collection and they look back and they're like, I should have done all these things differently. doing 20 pieces or 20 styles, you have no learning. So I would say start small and save your budget. You could always do a second drop. You could do your first drop and then quickly try to do a second drop by having like using stock fabrics. So there are lots of options you can do, but I personally would tell you to pull it back and make sure you get it right before you start going deeper into styles. Now, for budgeting, that is a like 25-page workbook in the program, and it takes, I think it's like a 3-hour lesson. It's really long. What I can tell you to do quickly though is split your $50,000 and only plan on paying $25,000 for all of your developments and all of your production. So all of your product, anything that has to do with shipping, all of that, trim, packaging, all of that is half of your budget, and the other half should be marketing. So I don't recommend new brands start with Facebook ads because you probably have a bad funnel. I recommend new brands actually start selling in person where they can meet people and they can get feedback about what it is that they're making, and they can kind of make sales and make relationships that way. A lot of people on here, and again, we'll skim over this when we get to these questions down the line. A lot of people it's not 2012 anymore. E-com isn't easy. Most brands have a strategy when they run Facebook ads, a lot of them, that they're going to lose money getting their first customer, but when that customer reorders, they start making money. So they actually have strategies like this because Facebook ads become so astronomically expensive. We all know the influencer stuff doesn't really convert the way people had hoped that it would convert for these high budgets that they ask for. The best way to kind of get things moving is in person. So budget for that. Instead of budgeting for Facebook ads, budget for pop-ups, trunk shows, all that type of stuff, because you're going to see more movement starting out than trying to run Facebook ads. The other problem with Facebook ads is people run traffic to ads thinking that someone will click and they'll buy. How many people have seen an ad once from a brand they don't know and ran out to buy it? Probably none of you. Because at this point, thanks to Shein, thanks to Temu, thanks to all these things, it's like, what is this? You know, anyone could say they're anything on the internet, and we've all kind of gotten wise to it, which makes, even if we are legitimate, the process of us selling our stuff a lot harder. So you need to be nurturing that contact or that ads lead. To do that, it's always an email funnel, and you need a strong email funnel. I had a student who was like, I'm spending so much money on ads and it's not converting. The first thing I did is I signed up for their email list. I didn't get a single email. Well, I was like, of course it's not converting. You're thinking you're going to sell off of ads when the ads is just kind of step one of probably a 20-step process of getting this person to become your customer. So you need to have a really strong funnel, and the cheapest and best way to test your funnel is in person. If you're in person and people aren't buying, it doesn't matter. Do a giveaway, give me your email. Someone's going to win a free dress. Get their emails, test your funnel. See how many of those people convert after that, right? So I would say, not Facebook ads, but more marketing. If you want to do giveaways, I think giveaways are really good. Collaborations and things like that, giving product away to some very specifically chosen influencers. When you work with an influencers, always get information about, and again, this isn't exactly answering your question, but like I can't give you, we would be here until tomorrow if I taught you how to do a budget from start to finish. I can give you some tips on like what to do with your budget and how not to burn through it. When you're looking at an influencer, they must give you a case study of someone they've worked with in the past and how it converted. They tell you they can't do that, they can't do their job. That's like going to a doctor and saying, can I see your medical degree? And they're like, just trust me. No, they have that on the wall. And an influencer should be able to give you like, I worked with this brand, I did this post, they got this many likes, they got this many follows, they got this many sales. If they can't provide you that, they are a scammer and they're going to waste your time and money. So don't work with them. Other places that you should be spending your budget besides ads. Yeah, the other one I think would be, let's see, we went over emails, we went over influencers, and in person. Those are really the top 3 places that you want to be spending, again, half of your budget. So $25,000 of that you're going to be spending on those types of things. PR, don't pay people, do it yourself. I worked in PR for a year. The owner of the company will always meet with you. The owner of the company will always tell you all these things. At the end of the day, the PR world runs on the back of interns. It's an intern sitting there emailing, answering pitches, you can do that type of work yourself, or you can hire a VA to do it for you for a lot cheaper. So don't go and like think that PR is going to solve your problems. The other thing with your marketing plan is don't assume that any of these things will solve slow sales and be a magic cure for your business. It all takes a really long time. So invest really slowly. Don't get a $5,000 a month ads agency or PR agency that promises you the world. They do not work. There is no special person that's figured it out. Again, I see the ads all the time. We took them from 10K months to 50K months. That's cool. Yeah, they're making 50K, but they're spending 60K in ads to get there. So they're actually losing money. That's the truth behind it all. And that's, I know it's not your question of how do I spend my budget, but it's kind of answering how do you not waste your budget? So keep an eye out for all those things. Okay, next up is Catherine. You're okay. What type of brand do you want to start? Katie, a sustainable t-shirt brand for kids, youth sizes. What type of MOQ do you need? Unsure, that's one of my questions. I want this t-shirts to be ethically produced and high quality, going for retail price of $40 to $50. I'm in the really early stages. I'm unsure what my minimum should look like and how to find the right factory. What's your total budget to start? 20K. And your question, when I first thought, what kind of inventory should I start with? I was a buyer many years ago, but it was all based on data. Exactly. And past sales. Where should I start looking for quality t-shirt manufacturers? Okay, so these are good questions. And I actually want to talk about a couple of things that you said, which are really going to be applicable to everyone, and everyone on this call should think about. The first is I want to make, you said good, ethically produced, high quality products. Ethically produced could mean anything. There is no definition of ethical. The only thing that has a legal definition is organic. Organic has to meet certain criteria to be organic. To be ethically produced, anything is ethically produced. Anything is sustainably produced. There's a lot of people trying to create a lot of laws right now to kind of create some regulation on how we market these products. But at the end of the day, ethical is whatever you want it to mean. So you need to decide what that means to you. A lot of people say, I don't want to make in China. I'm very against that because there are a lot of great factories in China and there are a lot of terrible hell on earth places in LA and the United States. You really need to be close to your factory and see what's going on to make that kind of a call. So that's the first like kind of misconception I want to talk about with ethical production. The second thing is, for me, this is a very big thing for me. I don't think that teaching women to sew is empowering. I don't think anyone here would want to work at a factory. So let's not pretend it's empowering for other people. I think what's empowering and ethical is giving them skills, promoting them from within, teaching them how to do, if they want other jobs outside of the fashion industry, giving them that type of education. There are a lot of next steps than just we use women labor. When you put it that way, we use women labor, it actually sounds kind of unempowering. So figure out what it is that ethical means to you and move into that deeper and figure out, a lot of people, I'm an ethical brand, so I donate 20% of my sales to a charity. Cool, but like, what could you actually do locally that would benefit people directly than just giving your money to a massive charity where we don't really know where that money goes to a lot of the time. So really think next level when it comes to all that ethical stuff. High quality. Again, what does it mean? There is no, to you, something that's high quality could be low quality to someone else. Some people love really heavy cotton t-shirts. Some people might be like, well, those are really thick, coarse yarns. I'd rather have something that's much thinner and has a smaller yarn that's, actually more expensive to make. Quality is so subjective that, or objective, sorry, you need to really pinpoint what is the quality to you. And then that's how you'll market your brand. You'll say, we use only this. That's why we're high quality. High quality means nothing. Again, thanks to like all the influencers of the internet and kind of where we are now in 2024, everyone's like, we are making the best t-shirt. We're making the best sweatshirt. We're making the best. Yeah. Like, what does it mean? Right. Would anyone here buy anything that was like, we make the best jeans? Like, probably not. So you really want to define all these things that everyone is going after and then move your supply chain into that. So if you just, I'm sustainable, I'm ethical, I'm high quality, like prove it. How? What is it that you're focusing on? That's what you need to focus on with this. Okay. So I think what kind of inventory should I start with? As little as possible. Get the product that you need and the budget that you want for as little as possible. This way you can test, because if you get it wrong and you're like, oh, these kids are going to love the color blue and they want yellow, you're going to have a lot of blue inventory to move. So make as little as possible, test as much as you can within your budget, and that's how you should start. Then the next question is usually, but what if I sell out? Good, great. You want to sell out. Everyone's always worried about not having enough inventory. The reality is very few people sell out. So you want to, again, hope to sell out, but make less. I want to go back and go back with preparing to sell everything. And this also has to do with the MOQ. Start building your audience right now. You don't need a name, you don't need a product, you don't need anything. Create a new Instagram account. You can always change your name on it and start interacting with whatever your niche is. If it's kids clothing, start interacting with, kids clothing influencers or mom bloggers or whoever. Start posting content that you think that audience would also be, that's interesting for that audience. You can also tell your story. I'm starting a brand. Start creating your audience. If you are getting ready to launch and you only have 100 Instagram followers and like 10 people in your email list, you're in trouble, because they're not going to come overnight as soon as you launch. It takes months to build that audience. Start building now. Based on your audience, you can kind of get a feel for how quickly it's growing. You can get a feel for how much product you should make. Carla is a great example of this. I wrote an email about her like a couple months ago. I'm probably going to like reblast that email out because it's great what she did. She literally became an influencer while she was developing her product. So while she was doing the research, while she was doing her sampling, while she was doing her production, which takes 6 months. If anyone tells you it takes shorter, run away. They're just telling you that to get your money. She took that time to literally become an influencer, got like 20,000 followers on Instagram, and sold out on launch for a lot of her styles. So you need to do that right now. And that's going to help you also gauge interest. If you're, going to networking events, kind of soft pitching your product, no one's interested, it's going to help you kind of figure out how to adjust your product and also how much to order. Okay. So Catherine, we answered those questions. And I think that is all of them. Okay, good. Next is Camille. Camille for Mason, or we want to start a luxury conscious lingerie brand. Again, like, what is luxury? Is it hand embroidered chemical laces? Is it the fit? Is it just marketing? Are you taking kind of mediocre product and trying to make it more? A lot of luxury brands do this. What is making this product luxury? We are starting to organize things and want to make a collection for 2025. We would like to make 15 items in 5 sizes and 3 colors with different functions. Our ideal would be an investment of 50,000 euros. What is the best option, e-commerce or direct to wholesale? I think that in today's day and age, you have to be a mix of everything. You have to have wholesale, because the wholesale accounts are going to help bump up your MOQs, which will help bring down your price. You have to be selling yourself in person, so you're interacting with people, learning what they like and dislike about your brand. So you can sometimes even add that into your marketing or alter your product to be better. And you need to be trying to do the e-com thing. The e-com thing is going to be the slowest moving. Everyone always wants to do it. Usually what happens is they do it for 3 months and they're like, Melanie, what do I do? We start doing the in-person and wholesale thing and they start moving along. And it actually helps their e-com. I just did a video about this on Instagram. Wholesale it's free marketing. Yeah, you get a lower margin, but that lower margin would have been spent on Facebook ads anyway, or more. So if you're selling a shirt for $100 on your website, you might need to spend 50 in Facebook ads to get the sale. You could just sell the shirt for 50 to a boutique and you're still making the same amount of money. And what's happening is whatever products are in the boutique, customers are associating with the same quality as what's in there, and they're trusting them. They already shop at the boutique. They're already in there. They're already customers. If the boutique owner says this is a good product, they're going to trust them and they're going to want to try it. That's how boutiques work. They have a lot of trust with their clientele. So it's really important to not just be in them, but be in the right ones as well. Okay. We want to remain creative directors, leaders, and investors of our brand, concept, artistic choice, and hire an executive manager, production, and sales. Which profile must we find? It sounds like you want everyone to do the hard work, to be completely honest, because that's the hardest part. I think everyone has great ideas and everyone has dreams and they think that their eye is the best, and that it's true. I see a lot of people like nodding, like the hard work is making the product and selling the product. That's the business essentially. So you can't hire the same person to do that. A product development person knows product inside out, and a salesperson is selling all day long and has contacts with boutique. Like a product development person is usually largely overseas based. A salesperson is local and they know each boutique owner, they know each department store buyer, they know all those people. They're two completely different skill sets. It would be like saying, like, I want someone who went to cooking school and someone who went to law school to now be my auto mechanic. Like it doesn't, that is not a combination of job function. The other thing that I want to say is that you cannot hire people to make your brand. Your budget of 50,000 euros is not enough, to be quite frank. That's not even the salary of one good product development person. Product development, like straight out of school with zero experience, starts at $40,000. So you can't even hire like one person who has zero experience. So you need to learn how to do these things yourself. And it's important to do them yourself, everyone, because when you do them yourself, you know the job that needs to be done and you know if the person that you hired is doing it correctly. I think a lot of us assume that if we hire someone, they'll do the job, and they won't. Most sales agents won't even take on your brand unless you're already in a few stores. They don't want to take on a brand that's like, we have 0 accounts. They want to take on a brand that has 3, 4, 5 accounts because it shows that people like the brand and their job is going to be possible. People are taking on your brand and you're not in any doors, meaning like retail stores, they probably aren't the best sales agent. And that's the reality of it. And someone who's a product development person is not going to be able to help you with sales. I can help a little bit and give you like the broad, this is how to do sales, this is how to make a line sheet, this is how to do whatever. But do I know every buyer at every department store? Absolutely not. That's not my job. A sales agent would do that. I can get you to the point where a sales agent would want to have you as a client, but I'm not a sales agent, right? So just be clear with like different people's jobs and different people's roles. And again, your budget, if you want to hire teams so you don't really have to do any of the hard stuff and you can kind of do the fun parts, that's fine, but you're going to need like at least probably 200, 250 to do something like that. So that's, the reality of it. Okay. Starting a fashion brand is really hard. It's super hard. I know a lot of people on the internet make it seem easy and make it seem like, you're working from the beach and look at this passive income. I was sleeping and look at my Shopify sales. And again, I see all the ads. That's not how it is. It's like one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. You'll probably be working more hours than the 9 to 5 that you have right now. But eventually you will be able to start working less once things get going. And it does give you a lot of freedom. For me, in my business, I work from 9 o'clock in the morning, usually until midnight. Now, during that time, I also will take like a 3-hour lunch, or I'll go to the beach in the middle of the day, or I'll do other things, and I can do whatever I want, generally whenever I want. So that's a trade-off, right? So maybe I'm not working my 8 hours a day from 9 to 5. I'm still working those 8 hours a day. They're spread out and I'm doing it my way. So it's not that you're working less, you just have more freedom. And I think that's something really important to kind of talk about. Something too on the side of kind of like creating a lifestyle that you want, doing the fun parts. What was I gonna say? Sorry, I was just scrolling down to the next question to see how many we had left because we're definitely going to go over an hour. Okay. So, keep that in mind. A lot of people also, back to what I was saying, think that success is like having 100 employees beneath them. I don't want to manage 100 employees. That sounds like hell. you can have a really nice business that's just like you and maybe you and a VA, or you and maybe like an assistant or one or two other people, and make like over $1 million profit. I know brands that do that. So a lot of people have this vision that like, I'm not successful until I have all these underlings and all these things and all this fame and press and everything else. And like, there are so many brands that like, they reach out to me and they're doing these massive orders for production and I've never even heard of them. And, you know, they're doing really well. A VA is a virtual assistant. So they're kind of like an assistant, but they often, Philippines has a lot of VAs, India as well. They tend to be cheaper than hiring people in the United States, and you hire them to do tasks that you yourself already know how to do, and you basically train them to do, you know, repetitive tasks and social media management, things like that. And a lot of people use them and they're super, super helpful. Sometimes people have more than one. One does social media, one does email, one does whatever. But it's not their job to fix your business. Like you need to have an already running business and then you teach them how to do the stuff that generally you would teach an intern to do, right? You wouldn't say to an intern, and actually a lot of people do say to an intern, manage my social media. That's not an intern's job. You tell the intern exactly what you need them to do. So that's how that works. Okay, let's keep going. And again, like manage your expectations with everything. You don't need to have a huge world-changing business to be successful and be happy and have freedom and all these things. Okay. Next we have Kim. Slow fashion, cotton, organic cotton play, sleep and loungewear, catering to the luxury resort. It's in Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, and South Africa. 20 per style, made in India or South Africa, small capsule collections. What is your total budget to start? So with an MOQ of 20 pieces, if you want to make something like this in India, you're going to have to use available prints. You're not going to be able to do custom prints. The good news is there's tons of available prints out there. Small budget, $4,000, not in first collection only. The collection includes marketing, etc. Okay. Can you assist me in finding the right supplier? We're not going over that. I have 44 patterned garments we have worked on for the last 3 years. I want to start small and grow organically. So which 2 styles I should start with that is popular globally, so to minimize dead stock? Why do you have 44 patterns and not in production yet? That is, you should, you need to start making stuff and stop making patterns. Should I manufacture in India or South Africa? That is completely and totally up to you. You get to decide where you make your product when you have your brand. There's no right or wrong answer. There are brands making their products in every country in the entire world. And none of them are doing it right and none of them are doing it wrong. It just depends on what you and your brand want to do. What do you charge to facilitate comms between a factory and myself? So if you're looking to hire me, I charge $14,000 to develop 5 styles for you from start to beginning. I do all the fabric development, patterns, markers, grading, strike offs, lab dips, samples, fit samples, SMS samples. I get you to the point where you just have to place your production order and you do that directly with the factory. That price is going up to $20,000, I think, in the fall. All my prices are going up just because I have too many people at this point. And I really want to start kind of, yeah, they're just going to go up. What do you, I want only GOTS approved. Will it come with that certification? Probably not. I don't know anyone in India that's will do full GOTS certification. The thing with GOTS certification is the fiber has to be certified, the yarn spinning has to be certified, the fabrics weaving, knitting has to be certified, the dyeing has to be certified, the factory has to be certified. I believe even you need some sort of certification for the full chain has to be GOTS certified. And for 20 pieces, that's not really happening. People will tell you that it's GOTS certified. Do me a favor, Google New York Times fake organic cotton in India, and a whole expose will come up about all this fake organic cotton. You think you're buying it, but you're not. I would say just avoid it and work with like small brands that are doing the right thing. Avoid super toxic things like azo dyes and stuff like that. And that's kind of the best you can do with such a small MOQ. Maybe you could get dead stock. You might be able to get GOTS dead stock again, but you know, it's going to be kind of hard to verify that and depends on your supply chain and where you're getting it from. I'm a small startup. Our currency is weak. You give thousands of dollars, I can die. So hence we are starting with only 2 styles. That's fine. Start with one if that's what you need to do. I've worked with people who have started with as little as $2,500. Started with one style. We were super scrappy, really careful with what we did, but she did it, she sold it, and she continued to grow. And now she's got like a whole bunch of styles. So it's possible. 7, we have an existing business that retails resort wear, not ours, that we have had for 17 years. Should I also be supplying non-breaded, ready-to-wear caftans for cash flow? Ideally, I really want to concentrate on building my brand, as that is where the value lies, but I am just getting frustrated with myself and all the sampling, finding the right suppliers. I've been to Premier Vision multiple times, where you found your stencil supplier. Okay, so what I would do, having a retail location, is I would go through all of your store's data and see what your best sellers are. What is everyone buying? What do you sell at the most of? I would then make product to compete with that. I'd pull back on whoever that is, and I would start making my own. So if your top seller is like a white dress, you start making not the same one, but a very similar white dress at the same price point and put it into the store and see what happens. That's where I would start. You have the data, you know what's selling, it's your store. So I would do that. Again, don't knock off what they're making, but just notice like we sell tons of white dresses. All right, I'm going to pull back the others white dresses and I'm going to make my own and see what happens. You can do this with light labeling, and you can build your own brand. You could call it brand 123 and put it in your boutique. So you can be building your brand while using your own boutique and using all the data. That would be the most efficient way of doing it. And that's how I would personally do it. Okay. Ada is next. Jaipur versus Mumbai for fabric supply, surface design, and production. I understand Hindi and converse in Gujarati. I don't know if that's necessarily a benefit. I don't speak anything and I'm doing just fine. And I'm saying that because a lot of people are often intimidated about working other places where there might be a language barrier. I had a meeting in China once where there was no translator. They spoke zero English, and I would type an email and they would Google translate it. And then they type an email back to me and I would Google translate it. And we just went back and forth all day long. Could it be done with me sitting in New York? Yes. I was sent there to do business in person. So we did business in person that way and everything got done. So don't let that stop you. Is it harder? Yeah. Does Google Translate sometimes translate things incorrectly? Also, yes, but you can still do it and don't think that that's not a reason to work someplace. Should I directly approach artisans or work with NGOs or only contact through a manufacturer? That's up to you and how you want to work. There's pros and cons to everything. I think you just have to reach out to people and see who you feel the most comfortable with and who you kind of jive with. A great example I love to give is like, I have a supplier I love working with. I gave them to my friend and she was like, I want to pull my hair out. I hate working with them. The supplier that's great for me isn't going to be great for someone else. And a lot of people are like, if I just got my competitor supplier, I could do this. And no, you can't, because there's lots of other stuff that goes behind doing it, but also it's the relationship, right? Like whoever you're dating, their ex probably hates them, but you really like them because everyone's not compatible. The same thing goes for suppliers. So I would keep that in mind as well. When you're picking them, it's not like NGOs are better than working with artisans or artisans or this. It just depends on your style and how you feel with that specific team. That's what it comes down to. How many colorways of one pattern for the first launch? Totally up to you. You get to decide. Some people start with one product. Some people start with many. There's no right or wrong. It's doing the research to know that you're making the right decisions in your product, launching in a way that you're not blowing through your budget. Where a lot of people go wrong is they're like, they don't realize how much money it takes and they run out of money halfway through and then they're just stuck. So that's what's most important. There is no magic number where if I just make 7 styles and 3 colors, I'll be a success. That's sadly not how it works. It's all dependent on you, your budget, what you're making, your audience, and like it's very, very personal. Okay. Should I price below or the same as my established competitors? Again, that's up to your branding, right? If you have a photo shoot and your photos like look not really good, you should probably price below. If your competitor has really bad photos or really bad marketing and you know that you did better, and other people are telling you that you did better, because a lot of times we think everything that we do is amazing, which is normal, but you should always be getting kind of outside opinions because you get very close to your product and it's hard to see kind of it for what it is because you're so attached to it and you're so in it. But yeah, it's going to depend on so if you have a really great photo shoot, like why not price it more? If you have some sort of celebrity endorsement that they don't have, yeah, sure, price it more. There is no, again, right or wrong with that. A lot of times people think if I price it less, people will come to me, or if I price it more, they'll think I'm higher quality. There is no really rule to that. It just, you have to test it and you have to see. Okay. What type of fabric do you recommend for caftans? I would like it to be skin friendly, hand washable, so we can wash it on there. Hand washable means it doesn't go in the washer and dryer. Non-wrinkle, have a nice weight and drape. So knit fabrics are going to wrinkle less than woven fabrics. That's just a property. That's generally the way how fabrics work from, I guess, like a physics level. And then polyester is going to be your most wrinkled. Polyester was created to be easy wash. It was literally man-made to be thrown in the washing machine and come out looking perfect and always look perfect. It was created for that. So it does a really good job doing that. Silk's going to wrinkle, modal is going to wrinkle, cotton's, everything's going to wrinkle a little bit. But if you use knits, they'll wrinkle less than wovens. So, I would use maybe a really fine knit jersey for the caftans because that's not going to wrinkle as much as like a plain weave silk. I'm planning to visit India in June to secure fabrics, finalize manufacturer, and hopefully have a first version of the sample. Okay, that's great. All right, Lauren. Women's clothing ready to wear, feminine and polished, interested in block printing. What type of MOQ? Unsure. What is your total budget to start your brand? 10K, possibly more. Advice on how to nail down my specific niche and style. I feel I have too many ideas and I need help narrowing it all down. There are so many brands that I see in the factories that I go in, and like they make the ugliest stuff in the world. I'm just like, how? Like, not how are they even in business, but like, how are they producing so much of this? And it's because they know their audience, they know how to reach them, and they're making what their audience wants. Is it my style? Clearly not, but it's someone's style. So I really can't tell you, and no one can tell you what to make or what niche is better than another niche, because all that matters is that you find that niche and you communicate well with that niche and you relate to that niche, and that niche loves you and wants to buy from you. And if you can do that, you can make any niche work. So based on that, I would say go with the niche that you feel most passionate about, not the best idea. Because at the end of the day, like I mentioned before, this business is very, 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 very hard. And you're going to want to give up like all the time. And what's going to keep you going is something that you really care about, not something that you think is a great idea. People have great ideas all day long. When you care about something, it helps you push through. So I would say choose the one that you care about the most and make sure that you understand how to relate to whoever that niche is, because if you can do those two things, you'll be fine. All right. And with that, it's just your gut and listening to yourself. That's all you have to do, which is easier said than done. Okay, next question is from Heidi, who wants to start an online t-shirt brand, not mass market, but with good quality sewing, such as the addition of a back neck binding with polyester tape to increase the length of time an individual can use a t-shirt without an issue of overstretched necks and repeated use. That's quite common. I wouldn't say that's a differentiator. It's a good thing to have, but it's not like a mind-blowing thing, to be completely honest. So that I would not, you can put that in your marketing or like ours versus theirs or something like that, but I wouldn't base your entire brand around that. 1,000 pieces is the MOQ. I want to make my product in Nigeria because there are a few fantastic dye houses and garment companies that source 100% long fiber cotton yarn across West Africa and source Other types of yarn, such as spun, polyester, lycra, etc. Okay, great. 1,000 pieces, again, let me remind you, is 1,000 pieces per style per color. So that means you're making 500 black, you're making 1,000 black t-shirts, you're making 1,000 white t-shirts, you're making 1,000 red t-shirts. You're not making 1,000 pieces split between 10 colorways. 1,000 is a lot. And unless you already have existing channels of sales, I would not do this. A factory would love you to do this because it's a great payday for them, but I would never let one of my clients make 1,000 shirts if they didn't already have sales going. Total budget is $3,500. Okay, so right there, not possible, because if you want to make 1,000 pieces and the shirt is going to, like a plain basic t-shirt is going to cost 1,000 pieces, at least $5, your budget's already $5,000. And that's just for your production. That's not your samples, your patterns, your product development, all the running your business, your website, your marketing, all the things we discussed earlier. So your budget isn't realistic. You need to go back and you need to look at your budget and you need to refinagle. If your budget's $3,500, that means you have $1,750 for your product. I'm going to then remove 500 from that, at least for your product development of one shirt, only one style. That leaves you with $1,250. Let's divide that by 5. Again, best case scenario for the price. You're left with an MOQ of 250 pieces. So I know that was fast. I'm going to share the recording of this so you can all rewatch that if you need to, but that's a realistic budget. And that is why on the first few questions I said, before you even think about talking to a fabric supplier, budget, niche, what it is you're making, what type of fabrics you want to make out of, all of that is stuff that you need to know. Okay. Do you think there are still opportunities to sell carded t-shirts as opposed to comb cotton t-shirts? And how do you suggest I can market my product in America and Europe? After branding of t-shirts seems to be an added value, what would you suggest my route and marketing strategy should be if I intend on selling my plain premium t-shirts? Okay, so I was just with a boutique and I was helping them shop in India, and the people in the shop were trying to sell them. One was like $5, one was like 100. And they're like, oh, but it's made of this and it's a special. And they literally just looked at them and they said, a shopper is going to see these two things in the store and they're not going to know the difference. And you're not going to have sales support there to explain everything. And even if you are, they probably aren't going to care and they're going to go for the cheaper. And that's the reality of it. Instead of worrying so much about the carded or the combed or the this or the that, I would focus on longevity personally, because when someone has something that they can keep on wearing that doesn't fall apart, you generally tell your friends about that. I've had this shirt for, I wear it all the time and it's still great. That to me is something from a product standpoint that's tangible for the average customer. The average customer, no one is Googling carded t-shirts, comb t-shirts. That's not a Google thing, long staple, maybe. But again, that's going to be like a really high level person. And there aren't really enough of those. So while you can use it, and you should if you want to, because it creates a better product, you need to figure out better ways of communicating the value in your shirt than just technical terms, because people do not care. They just don't. And like magazines don't really care as much anymore either, because it's kind of been done to death. Like, oh, the recycled polyester swimsuits and the handmade this, like the story, it's not fresh and exciting anymore. So I think if you think about it, maybe for me, I would focus this brand on quality coming out of West Africa, which is not something that most people generally associate in their mind. And maybe that's your niche, like West African luxury or something like that. I would focus more on that personally than like technical terms, and telling the story of these wash houses. Why are they so amazing? Like, you told me they're amazing. Again, like prove it. Like, why? Tell that story. That I think is going to be a lot more relatable to your customers than again, like technical industry terms. Okay, next is Megan, merino natural fiber period wear meant for an active lifestyle. 1,000 overseas if possible, with cost in the USA. Budget is 20,000. So 1,000 pieces. Again, that's of the same style in one color. So 1,000 pieces, let's say they're, $10 each, 10,000. Your budget is kind of there in the realm of being realistic, but merino is expensive. So it might actually be a little bit low. You might be making a little bit less. To determine your profit margin, I would just be aware of that. You can always shift a little bit down the line. How does one best determine a profit margin markup? What is a good profit margin to shoot for? So generally, you want to be at least times 4. So if you're buying the product for 10, you want to be selling it for at least 40. So when you wholesale it, you're wholesaling it for 20 and you're still making money. Now, when you're starting and you have really low MOQs and you're only making 20 pieces, your margins are going to be, they're just going to be shit. And that's the way it is. And that's okay. But in wholesale, you might want to be breaking even. So if you buy your product for 10, you wholesale it for 10, you just break even, get in those stores, get that free marketing, get that free brand association, get those bigger orders from the wholesalers, and then you're selling for 20, because sometimes some products, when you make only 20 pieces, they're going to be exorbitantly expensive and your customers aren't, and your niche isn't going to want to pay that much. So you're going to have to take a lower margin. The goal, and this is very, very honest, and no one on the internet is ever going to tell you this because people usually run the other way when they hear this. The goal of your first season is to break even. It's normal to lose money. I know everyone promises you, you'll be selling, you'll be quitting your job. You won't. You'll be selling, you'll be learning, you'll be making your money back, but you won't be making real money in terms of like, you can use it to live. It will be going back into your business. So the goal of your first season is just to break even, get in as many hands as you can, get in as many retail stores as you can, get as many customers as you can, however you can, get that product in people's hands, get as many reviews as you can. So it starts building your credibility, all of that. That's what you want to do. And that's kind of, down the line, you're going to want to be at that 4x at least minimum. But starting out, you just want to break even. You just want to not lose money, and you just want to get it in as many hands as possible without, ordering too much and all of that. So the strategy for someone starting is very different than the strategy for someone who's on season 3 or 4. And that's important to remember. And it's important to have realistic expectations, because a lot of people are like, I've got to launch this brand so I can quit my job by Christmas. Like I'm sorry, like maybe for a few people that happens, but that's just not the reality of it. It takes a lot longer to do. But you'll do it. A lot of people do it. You just have to be realistic about your goals. Okay. Do you think people should consider hiring out a consultant expert in marketing to get their system set up? I think you should do it yourself first. I think every job that you want to hire for someone, you should try to do yourself and see what's working and what's not working. And then when you know something's not working, hire someone to fix that little piece that's not working. Or what you do is you hire someone who's going to then do what it is you're doing and scale it so you can focus on other components of your business. When you're a small startup, it's you that's doing everything, and you'll learn as you go and you'll make mistakes, but the goal is to make small mistakes. You don't want to make mistakes that will put you out of business. A mistake that will put you out of business is hiring a marketing manager who charges you $10,000 a month and doesn't perform, because none of them perform. And then they're going to come back and they're going to say, well, your budget wasn't high enough. If you just given me more money for Facebook ads, they would have worked. If you just given me more money for the PR component of your brand, it would have worked because I could have gotten you more magazines. If you just given me more samples to give away to influencers, they have a million excuses of why what they did didn't work. And you need to know, when I gave away 3 pieces to 3 influencers, 2 of them posted, 1 of them didn't, and 1 that posted got me X amount of sales. So they have criteria that they must meet, and they can't just feed you excuse after excuse as to why you're throwing money down the drain every month. So I would not hire anyone to do your marketing until you figure it out yourself. All right, next up is Kayla. My name is Kayla. My brand is called Cora Lux. I want to start a swimwear brand for curvier women that is slightly more technical for water sports. Think leggings and rash guards for paddle boarding, scuba diving, snorkeling, etc. Okay, I'm looking to make 300 pieces in 3 different styles. That means you're looking to make 900 pieces for your total order, I assume, because we've been over MOQ. I'm undecided where to manufacture. This is part of my question. I would love to manufacture in the US, especially Miami, but I know it's costly and I don't think my client base would want to pay those prices. My second choice is Indonesia. And honestly, I'm rethinking China because of some things you've mentioned on Instagram on your website. Yes, I would do this in China. My budget is $5,000. Okay, so if you're making 300 pieces at 3 styles, that's 900 pieces. Let's say best case scenario, you can land these things for $10 in the United States, landed, including shipping, duties, taxes, all that stuff. That's $9,000 for your product. Again, no business stuff, no development stuff. Your budget is unrealistic. Wanting to make samples and do a Kickstarter for the rest to start production, hoping to raise 10K with the input of with my input of 5K. That is Kickstarter. When you look at these case studies, and I know one of my competitors is always like, let me teach you how to kickstart. When you look at her case studies, no one has really been successful since around 2017, 2018. That's kind of when Kickstarter died. Now, I'm not telling you not to do Kickstarter because you can raise some money, but like the days of we raised $1 million on Kickstarter are over. And the brands that are doing it, they actually hire consultancy firms that take a huge percent. First, you have to pay them a ton of money to take on your Kickstarter, and they take a huge percent of whatever they raise. So you're paying them a salary and they're taking a commission. Jalop is one of them. They're really big. And those are the people who are like, we raised $1 million. They are hiring professionals to kickstart for them. So I would, it doesn't hurt to put on Kickstart. Maybe it will go viral. Maybe it will get some traction, but Kickstarter cannot be your strategy for raising money. And this is a really great question that I think will apply to a lot of people. When you're creating your budget, it's not, I hope to raise this much money. I hope that, this will happen or that will happen. Your budget is the money that you have in the bank that you can spend on your business. That's it. Because if you don't do what you hope to do and you start this process, you're going to run out of money. So if you have $5,000, $5,000 is your budget. That means you're going to be making 150 pieces or 100 pieces of each style. That means maybe you're going to make 2 styles instead of 3 styles. I'm not sure what that means, but you're going to have to readjust your business. And this is something that everyone does and you'll continuously do because you're going to go into this saying, I'm going to make this and this, I'm going to do it. And then you're going to realize this isn't possible because of my budget. So you're going to retweak it. And then you're going to realize, okay, like these fibers that I wanted to use aren't possible because of my MOQ or this or that. How about I use that? How about I do this? And as you move forward through your business, everything is going to continue to change. That's why setting up your niche and your goals is so important in the beginning, because there's going to be a million paths you can go down. And the way you choose what path is right is by always going back to your core. For you, your core is making sure that this is performance wear for curvier women in activewear sports. So you're going to probably want to focus on the fit the most out of everything. Not where you're making your production, not all the other things. It's going to be the fit for you. So that's where you're going to want to invest most of your budget. Now, for other people, it's going to be something different because they have different goals and they have different whatever. But it's important to remember, and I've seen this, I have clients that I've worked with for years and they just won't get themselves unstuck. They want what they want and they know it's impossible and they won't go any other way and they just sit. And a lot of people do this as a procrastination tool because they're scared of what if I launch, what if I don't sell to anyone? So they just keep saying, oh, I'm not getting what I want, so I can't move forward. You have to find ways to move forward. And that's, really important in this whole process. So your budget's 5,000. It's not 10,000. If you can raise extra money, great. You'll be able to use that for other things, probably marketing, because that's what always needs more money. And get started doing everything that you need to do with that budget, because that's how you're going to move forward and that's how you're going to make progress. How do you work with a country like China for manufacturing where there might be language issues without, I think I got into that, without hiring a third-party person to do it? I've reached out, and also like most people in China speak English. It's very rare that they don't. They hire sales teams, they hire merchandising teams. I've reached out to some Chinese companies and heard crickets. And yes, I've said what I need as per your guidance. I also feel like they're farther away, the easier you could possibly get scammed. No, you can get scammed by anyone. If you don't know what you're doing, anyone can scam you. It's not, no. I'm just gonna say no to that. Also, they're Chinese manufacturers that accept low MOQs and have they ethical working standards. So a low MOQ is subjective. What like it's for Walmart, a low MOQ is 10,000 pieces of one style. For you, you'll probably maybe never even order that much an entire year. So, a low MOQ, what's a low MOQ? For you, it sounds like it's 300 pieces. There are suppliers in China that will do 300 pieces. There are some that will do 100. I'm not sure why they're not reaching out to you or answering you back, because the project that I'm working on, I wanted to do this from a standpoint of someone who has like no fashion industry experience. So I didn't use the suppliers that I've worked with for the past decade. I actually went out and found new ones to do this brand that I've been working on and I'm launching in July. And all of them didn't get back to me, but a lot did. So I really don't know what you're saying or what's happening, but some people should be getting back to you. And if no one's getting back to you, I'd bet my bank account that something's wrong in the communication. Okay, Sabrina is next. My name is Sabrina. My brand is called Navarati Studios, and I'm a slow fashion, sustainable luxury festival and resort wear inspired by Burning Man and Tulum. What type of MOQ, minimum order quantity, do you need? The minimum order would be 50 per 50 per design, and hopefully a sustainable factory with high quality embroideries and silks. Again, like you need to define what sustainable is. You can't just say sustainable whenever anyone's like, can you get me sustainable fabric? I'm like, can I have a clue? Can I buy a vowel? Like, what is it that you're after? So don't, narrow that down before you start reaching out to people. What is your total budget? 2,000 to start with. So 50-piece MOQ, if you want embroideries, you're looking at probably $25 per piece, 1,250. That's only for the product. That isn't even your product development and marketing and all that. So your budget is unrealistic. Maybe you need to make less pieces. Maybe you need to forego the embroidery. I'm not sure. But you'll have to kind of tweak things for sure to meet this budget. Maybe you buy ready-made goods, meaning like white label stuff, and then you embroider it. That's an option with the custom embroidery. There are different ways you could go with it. But as is now, you don't have enough money to do this from beginning to end. In the works of scaling my design, and I would like to find a sustainable, high quality factory that can provide minimum order quantity. What are the steps to take to start the process of getting in touch? Okay, so yeah, we're not going to go over that. I think the first thing you need to do is go over your budget. Okay, next up is Katie from Hudson, Wisconsin, 20 minutes from Minneapolis. I went to school in Madison she dropped out of Madison twice. So familiar with Wisconsin. I currently have a brand, Rain. It's a boutique. I sell women's slow fashion, but instead of emphasizing the environment and sustainability aspects of slow fashion, I focus on the importance of natural fabrics, quality, longevity, versatility, and the stories behind the clothes. Great. My blog is called Behind the Seams, and I promise I had already named it before following you on Insta. So this is a great point. I'm assuming you are not RLG Inc. or Dolly Parton because they both have that trademark. Dolly Parton has it for clothing and RLG has it for any sort of educational or informational stuff. The reason I know this is because everyone should do this with their name right now. You're going to want to do what's called a TESS lookup search, and I'm going to share my screen so you can all see it. Here we go. So you can see you put in behind the seams the word mark, and it's owned by RLG, which is a manufacturing company, and I believe educational and entertainment services, namely continuing education, I believe is the rest of this. It is a blog, essentially. So they can come after you, they can sue you. If you become big enough, they absolutely will, and they'll take it all. Dolly Parton as well, men's, women's, children's clothing. All of that. When you trademark by category. So if there was a behind the seams that was like a wine company and you wanted behind the seams for a clothing company, that would be okay. If they didn't have, if they were in food and beverage and you were in apparel, that's allowed. But they took the two good ones, and that's exactly why I am a look behind the seams, because these are already trademarked and you can't use them and they will sue you and it will be a mess and you'll have to change everything. A look behind the seams is allowed. They actually tried to stop me from using it, but we got around it. So I would change your blog. And for everyone who has a name, I would do this search. You can just TM search.uspto.gov or just Google tests trademark search. It's the first thing that will come up, and make sure your name is not trademarked by someone else, because they'll leave you alone. They'll leave you alone while you're not making money. The second you start making a ton of money and there's a reason to sue you, they will. And that's a strategy a lot of people use, and something that someone else asked a question about, like legalities and stuff. And I'll talk more about how you can, the law and actually adhering to it in a second. Okay, so let's keep going. So I would change that. I'm quickly seeing that there are major gaps in the slow fashion space, both in the educational and the actual apparel design and the overall marketing of it, not to mention the low margins and inconsistent pricing. I spent the last 10 years in corporate merchandising and marketing, so I have enough experience to know that I can do better. To start, I want to create a line of wovens like Jenny Kane in terms of classic, but with a much better fit, made ethically and sustainably. So she's doing crazy business. There's probably a reason why her fit is the way that it is. And something that people often say to me is like, I'm going to do a better fit. And the next thing I say back to them is, to who? On me, this shirt fits me how I want it to fit me. Maybe to you, this is the length of the sleeve. If you create clothes that fit you perfectly, think long and hard right now how many people in the world you've met that have your exact measurements. Not just have your exact measurements, but have your exact preference for how clothes should fit. Very few. So, the concept of fit, with curvy, with petite, there isn't a lot out there. And when it's done, it is often done poorly because they scale the patterns in ways that the patterns shouldn't be scaled. When it comes to like, I'm going to create the perfect t-shirt, I'm going to create the perfect button down, that is so personal. And that's why there needs to be so many t-shirt brands, because what's perfect to this person will be perfect to that person, will be not perfect to that person. And you buy what's perfect to you. You will never create a garment that's perfect to everyone, even in plus size, right? There's so many different places where people carry their weight and how patterns can be graded and scaled. You are essentially, if you're going to create something perfect, you're marketing it to a very, very small niche. And I don't necessarily know if that's the way I would go after business myself, because again, what's perfect to you, someone might think is the worst garment in the world. So everyone, keep that in mind. It's a conversation I have a lot with new brands to start. So I understand this sounds boring and a little overdone, but my plans for marketing this line are going to be rooted in storytelling and education, which will be different from traditional brands. There are a lot of brands that have this. Ace and Jig, you can look at Christy Dawn, who's now doing the regenerative farming. Most brands actually have some sort of tale of how their clothes are made, wrapped into the it's all about storytelling these days. The days of like a skinny girl walking on the beach selling product are over. That's done. Everyone's looking for user generated content, meaning like real clients and real reactions, or they're looking for some sort of storytelling, which is being connected. And the storytelling trend started around the same time as like the pandemic, around 2020. So if you really look, and everyone now pay attention, like that's what Instagram has become. Like it's no longer the feed of like nice image, aspirational image, this like Pinterestification of the internet. It's more like, here we are in the studio, here I am at home on my way to work. Like all brands are kind of doing this now. They're all sharing how their product is made. I don't know if that's that might have been a differentiator in like 2015, but today it's everyone's strategy. And if it's not your strategy right now, it should be your strategy, because that's what's it's this idea of telling stories to connect to your customers so they feel more connected with your brand and they want to support you. I've been in business for a little over a year and I'm building an amazing community and I'm so grateful to be growing. That's great. The reason for the shift is simply out of understanding where the industry is headed. If I want better, I need to go for it. All of the brands I carry also have direct to consumer channels, which makes running an e-com business difficult. Having a branded collection will differentiate me. Definitely. And most boutique owners do that. Most boutique owners who have lines in their boutiques, they start to create sometimes multiple lines to compete with the brands that are in there because the margins are better. They're selling a caftan for $100. They're selling it to you for 50. You're making $50. Whereas if you are making your own caftan and selling it for $100 and you're making it for 25, you're making $75. So most boutiques these days have their own in-house brands. So you should definitely too. And if anyone has a boutique, they should consider it. Considering white labeling before designing a collection, I understand that white labeling has lower margins and can be sold elsewhere, but it also has a lower barrier to entry. I know that I will one day design a collection, but I'm wondering if maybe now is not the right time. I'm bootstrapping my business and I'm not sure if I want all my cash tied up in inventory or if I could even meet the MOQs. I would love your thoughts on this. And if you know, so I'm not going to help you find suppliers on this call, but I think that white labeling is a great option. There's tons of really good products that are white labeled. Most influencers built their entire businesses on white labeling. There's nothing wrong with it, especially if you have an eye and you're good at picking out the right product. I would look at your data. I would see what's selling in your current boutique, and I would buy white label products that are similar to your best sellers. This way you have the highest chance of selling through. And that's how I would do it. All right. Lynn from Portland, Oregon. An e-commerce brand focused on forward-thinking products that save women time, starting with our patent pending wearable hair curlers, starting direct to consumer, but would like to also offer wholesale orders as we grow. I'm about to launch our website and have sold our product locally. I've begun marketing for a small drop of 100 units, which I've made myself from dead stock fabrics. I'm beginning to train a local seamstress to help make another small drop. I'm planning to use these initial drops for research before I make larger orders. I've started gaining a little traction with lots of helpful input from potential customers, as well as requests to start selling internationally. I'm getting a bit worried about being able to meet demand, which has made me hesitant to continue marketing as aggressively until I have a manufacturer lined up. I'd like to eventually have a manufacturer produce our standard size design, continue working with local seamstresses for custom orders. I'm trying to decide if I should open up my Shopify for pre-orders once this initial batch is sold, or if to do Kickstarter instead. I think you know my feelings on Kickstarter, do it, but don't expect much of it. Sounds like you have your own momentum going, so why not do the Shopify route and open up for pre-orders? I'm most comfortable making stock in advance for a quick turnaround on orders when I'm starting to see the products could help. Pre-orders can help me better gauge the right fabric to invest in and reduce waste early on. Do you recommend leveraging pre-orders? Yeah, for sure. Do you have any opinions on using Shopify pre-orders or doing a crowdfunding? So like I said, Kickstarter, like do it. You never know. It could go viral. The chances these days are pretty low. I would just market it yourself. The most important thing for the pre-orders is having some sort of timeline. So I would go out and based on, you know, the reactions that you've been getting, give yourself a best guess. And also based on your budget, maybe you make 1,000 pieces, maybe 500. I'm not sure. You'll have to look at your data and look at your audience. And once you figure that out, you can go out to manufacturers, you can make a sample. I would do that. I would have the manufacturer lined up. And then I would say, I'm going to be making anywhere from 500 to 1,000 pieces or 100 to 500 pieces, whatever it is. And I'll know at this time. The trick to this is you can't make less. So you could always make more, but you can't make less. You'll have the pricing. You'll also have the timeline. With the timeline, you then go out to your pre-order people and say, this will be ready in 3 months. It'll be ready in 2 months. It'll be ready whenever. It's important when you're doing pre-orders to let people know when they're going to get the product. Okay. Next is Rena, sorry. I started an e-commerce clothing brand in December. My plan was to buy product in order to start making money and then ultimately design. I am having traffic on the site and I've had a few sales, but the conversions are low. I am paying for ads, posting on social media every day. The website is easy to navigate. The prices are affordable and the product is nice. I'm stuck and not sure where to go from here. I know I need to expand and a business takes time to start up, but I don't want to continue to invest without results. If you're getting traffic and you're not getting sales, you absolutely have a problem. I don't know what it is. It could be your product. It could be your price point. It could be all these things that you're saying that it's not. Could be your funnel. It could be your photos. It could be that your people that are coming to your site just, you know, you're selling X and they want Y. And it takes a long time to figure that out. I don't have access to any of your data, so I really can't help you with that right now, but you for sure have a problem. If you have traffic without sales, there's a problem somewhere along the way. What type of MOQ do you need? 10 to start. I'm open to anywhere in the world. I would fix whatever problem you have right now on your site before even thinking about making more product. Your budget is $5,000. My goal is to continue to expand a Red women's line of clothing from leisure wear to evening gowns. How can I? So that's a really broad niche. It sounds like you want, that's a department store. That's Neiman's, that's Macy's, that's Lord and Taylor. It's Revolve, I guess. You can't, you have to start with one thing for one specific person, do it well, and then grow from there. Lululemon started with one legging. They were a yoga studio that made one legging. They didn't make a line of like 500 pieces every month. You have to start small and then expand. If you try to make everything, especially with a $5,000 budget, it's just not possible. So the first thing I would do is I would go onto your website and I would figure out why it is, whatever it is that you have up there isn't moving. I would then try to look for some sort of trend of the pieces that have sold already and figure out what it is and why those pieces are moving. I would then invest into making more of that type of piece and using that as your jump off point for whatever it is you're making. On your website, if you have, everything in the kitchen sink, but you notice you're selling all the evening dresses, that's your first product. Or if you're selling mostly swimwear, that's your first product. So I would go and I would look at what you're selling, move into that. But before you even think about spending any more money on buying more product, figure out what's wrong with your site and why people aren't buying from you. And that is a very long and time consuming and tedious process of just looking at your data. Hotjar is a great tool. Google has a free version too. It's basically a heat map of when someone comes to your site, you can see where their mouse goes. So you can see what they click on, you can see when they leave, you can see exactly what it is they're doing. So you'll be able to see what people are clicking on. You'll be able to see basically why they're not buying, where they're getting stuck, all of these things. I would start with that. Bea Isabella from LA. Organic, naturally dyed women's loungewear brand in the second round of sampling, trying to finish up sourcing and are looking for manufacturers. If you're sampling, you should already have your manufacturer probably should have been doing your sampling. I'm not answering any of the sourcing questions. Issue with a pattern maker. We did a trace off for a pattern maker from whom we trusted and paid her before getting the sample made. We received it and it was completely different from what we had asked for. Upon asking her to rectify the issue, she ghosted us. Should contracts be established with all parties in the supply chain, including pattern makers? So this is where I was going to talk more about like the legalities of being in business. You should have paid her half, had the sample made, and then paid her the other half when it was correct. Because also, like, I don't know how you vetted her or why you trusted her, but you probably shouldn't have. And there are checks and balances and things that you should look for when hiring anyone. And we don't have time to get into that because it's a lot of things that you need to ask and question and whole process in hiring someone. That we do that in the Launch My Conscious line, and it's just way too long. We're already at half an hour over time as it is right now. But contracts don't mean anything if you don't, one, the person who's done you wrong doesn't have money. You can sue anyone for any reason and you can be right and you can win. But if they have no money, what was the point? Now you just have $20,000 worth of legal fees and a court document saying you were in the right. If they have no money to sue, there's no point. Two is it worth the money? If the pattern was $200 and it's going to take $10,000 for a lawyer to get that $200, it's not worth it. It's not worth the time, the aggravation, or any of that. So a lot of times people are like, I need a contract, I need this, I need that. But if there's no money or the money to go after it is too small, good lawyers won't even take your case. Like I once had someone who owed me $30,000 and most lawyers were just like, let it go. This isn't worth it. We're going to waste more of your money than we're going to be able to recover for you. So I know your patterns weren't $30,000. They're probably maybe 1,000-ish. I don't think there's not much you can do. And you can go after someone, you can sue someone, but at the end of the day, what's more important than the contract is the vetting and understanding what you need to ask and look for and the criteria that needs to be met. So you don't end up in a situation where you're like, but I have this contract, right? Okay. Next is Andrea from Mexico. Small scale, artisan focused in India, finding fabrics designs and costs. What aspects of larger scale production processes can be adapted or scaled down to suit the needs of smaller artisan focused production? So this is an interesting question, and it's interesting to me because you think you have more control over your supply chain than you do. And this is a really important thing for everyone here to understand. As a small brand, and I know like the media has really led people astray when it comes to this, because we say like, look at this brand making things out of recycled ocean plastic. Look at this brand doing these things. It's not the brand. It's the textile manufacturer who's allowing the brand to use their product. The brand is not innovating. The brand is not doing anything special. It's actually the supply chain, which they have no control over, that's doing the amazing thing. But the media and the press, it's not exciting to be like this chemical company that's making this kind of fiber. It's more like, look at this small person who's, saving the world with their ocean plastic reusing. That's the story. So that's why a lot of people think they have a lot of control over these supply chains. Whatever the supply chain is, you tap into. You don't have control over it. And if you think you are going to go in and change supply chains, you're very wrong, and you're in for a world of just kind of chaos. So the question of like, how can I take large scale and adapt it to small scale needs? Whatever it is, it is. And you have to just learn to work in that system, especially for someone who's ordering 20 pieces, 50 pieces. Now, if you are, and this is one of the reasons I sometimes consider going back to fast fashion, if you're a Walmart and you're ordering 1,000,000 pieces per style, per color, you can make a lot of change really quickly, and you can make supply chains kind of bend to your will. When you're a small player, you're just working with what you got. And it's important everyone remember that, because if you try to change supply chain, you'll fail, and you have other things to focus on, like your marketing and your funnel building and your product and everything else. So keep that in mind. Are there any best practices or pitfalls to avoid when working with artisans on a small scale compared to large factories? With artisans, pad your timelines by double. They're not reliable. They just aren't, even the best ones. So if it's they tell you it's 3 weeks, I would plan for 6 weeks, maybe even 8 with artisans compared to like a factory. Next we have Caroline. Sustainable conscious lifestyle brand with closed loop business model. I've been working on this for 3 years, getting close to launching Shopify website, been gathering emails via my coming soon website. That's wonderful. Been researching materials and creating designs for 10 years. I plan to launch with, it's time. Caroline, it's time. You need to just do it. This is too long for planning. One of the main pieces and build out the collections from there. I have vintage items that I've been collecting for years, and just various pieces from brands around the world that are no longer in production. I'm wanting to use these pieces as the base for samples. Fantastic. Some of these more recent pieces, I'm going to be replicating everything with little to no changes. Great. Question: what should I say to manufacturers when I approach them with these pieces in order to make the production process smooth? I have been putting together tech packs for your instructions. I was also wondering if you know how to know how if you know how I need to approach this and what to say specifically. So this is like 2 lessons in Launch My Consciousness line. They're each 3 hours long. I think you need to, I've got a lot of stuff on my blog that you can, and if you've already read through that and you still feel like it's not enough, I would say you just need to either one, just send the email and see what happens and start with one style. Because if you've never done this before, let them do one style, let them mess up one style. Maybe you go to a different supplier for another style if you're trying to do this on your own. Hire someone. If you decide not to work with me, hire someone that can kind of take you from point A to B. But the thing is, there's so much that can go, then this is why I can't answer the question on here right now, because there's so much that can go wrong depending on your product, depending what the communication was, depending on what you're trying to do, that I can't just say, if you do this, this, and this, it will all be okay, because it won't. And that's the other thing, like things are always going to go wrong in fashion. Like they go wrong for me, they go wrong for everyone. It's about making sure those things that go wrong are small and that you have a plan to correct them. So like get used to just chaos because that's how the fashion industry is, and that's for everyone. I would say, you might not even need tech packs. If you're just copying stuff, you might not need them. You can maybe just send the samples to the factory and go like that. But, even like even the people that like take the program and they watch the lessons, they still have, on average, I'd say like 10 questions because it's based on like your specific product and what you're doing and the manufacturers you're working with and all of that. So if you want to do it on your own, start with one style, see what happens. If it goes well, add in another style and another style. But you need to do something, really anything. Choose your pieces, go to the fabric shows, choose your fabric, and like hire a local seamstress, hire a tailor. You don't have to work with a factory, right? Just like hire a local person who knows how to sew and have them make at least one piece of your stuff. Like get moving in some capacity, any capacity that you can, because 10 years of creating designs and thinking about doing this you got to just go. All right. Savannah, I'm a software industry professional who was laid off in March 2023, and I've been thinking of ways to achieve something on my own for a while now. And now is the best time ever. I'm 6 foot tall, Indian in late 30s, and still find it hard to find good clothing for my size and height. Yeah, definitely. Everyone here is like so much smaller. Even I'm 5'5" and I feel tall sometimes. So I'm looking to start a contemporary fashion brand with Indian flavors, pattern art technique, and launch in the US for tall women. I'm planning to start the brand consciously with progressing pieces in each collection. So I'm targeting for beginners budget 15K. Okay. It's good. You want to start small and grow. It's realistic. I was at a huge expo in Delhi at the end of February 24, Bharat Text, where I met a lot of suppliers, big and small. So they can accommodate tall sizes, but I have not seen any of their work for tall women. And we're just regular sizes because anyone can make tall, anyone can make plus, anyone can make petite. They don't need special machines. The trick to tall, petite, plus is the pattern. And the pattern and the measurements come from you, not the factory. So that's why they say they can accommodate it. But the work, this goes back to who's doing the work, is you. You are responsible for doing that. And there's ways of figuring it out and doing it on your own. Actually, make sure you're following on Instagram because I just had one of my students, Kelly, she came to India with me and she's doing plus. And we took her idea for a product from literally like paper to finished samples in 10 days. And we're going to talk a little bit about plus size grading and all of that. But it is not, this is a great question for everyone. It is not your factory's responsibility to create a good fit for you. That's you. It's not your factory's responsibility to grade for you. That is also you. It's your factory's responsibility to create exactly what you tell them to create. So keep that in mind, everyone. So again, like I said, it's not the factory, right? You can be at Lululemon's factory, but if you don't have everything that Lululemon knows that goes into making their product, the measurements, the whatever, the this, the that, the pattern, even patterns can be different, you'll never have their product. And the factory will never give it to you because their job is just to follow your instructions. What's the rest? Creating something for tall women. In that case, how can I be sure that I can trust manufacturers to be well versed with creating something for tall women? Again, that's you and your pattern maker that's doing that when I cannot even give them a tech sheet. I realize how hard it is. This can be especially for the contemporary clothes that I have in mind. So there are ways that you can figure it out yourself. Again, that will take me like another 5 hours to like explain how to do it, but know that it's not their job, it's your job. And there are ways that you can DIY it yourself. Okay, that is everyone's questions. I'm going to quickly go through the comments. I didn't submit a question before. I just submitted on the chat directly to you. I don't think we're going to do that now. We're super over time. I sent out a lot of emails begging people basically for their questions. So I checked again. There's nothing on the market like I want to produce. Ritual clothes are more goth style and not the quality I'm looking for. And the more I listen, the more I know I have to put more social interacting for sales. That's because it will be special niche products. Yeah, maybe. I mean, my friend Leah, she had My Inner Fire and it did really well and she ended up selling her company. And the reason it did so well is because she was basically like she was like a band person on tour. She went to like every wellness retreat, every wellness festival, and she just went around the country going to every single one, selling in person, and people loved it and they bought it. And then they eventually started rebuying from her website. Um, okay. I was 15 minutes late. I'm not sure I answered everyone's question that submitted them. Deborah, can you DM me if you submitted it, I'll answer it, but I don't see your question. So send me your email and I'll search it. If it was submitted before this thing started, I will answer it because maybe I just missed it. It was an email. Yeah, just give me your email. And Kelsey, give me your email too. Oh. Okay. Okay. My name is Deborah. My brand is still in the concept stage. I'm an interior designer and wanted to start an e-commerce home accessories business. The Love Salad is the URL I purchased and my brand name. Sounds like a pretty unique name, but again, look it up on tests, make sure it's not taken. I was in India in February and unexpectedly fell in love with Adam, Adam Souk rugs. I'm wanting to design and produce some using hand block textiles, but also some elevated styles incorporating chikankari or embroidery. I'm thinking these are made in Jaipur. My question is to do with samples and inventory. I imagine making 4 to 8 versions of these robes. They're free size or maybe only extra small, small, medium, large, and using them to photograph and show in order to create sales. And then having a sense of inventory quantities. I'm trying to come up with a budget, but feel comfortable with 15 to 20K range. That's more than enough to do this project. So many questions is vague in a way, but it's also about next steps. I bought a quilted you got okay, yeah, Enoki. And we'll use it as my bait. Enoki is so expensive. You can find stuff a lot cheaper around Jaipur. They're so expensive, but we'll make some variations. I have a pattern maker here in New York City do this and then take it to India? Lots of questions here, learning so much. So I would, yes. So I would have I would even just buy a row. So if you just want a few pieces to test the concept and you've bought the materials already, I would take the materials that you have and I would just work with like a local tailor or a seamstress, not even a factory because factories have all this overhead, right? Spaces, staff, things. Work with someone local. A robe is going to be relatively easy to make. Make a few, photograph a few, see how they sell. I think that's a great strategy. The ones, if you notice, people really like the embroidery or they really like blue or they really like whatever, then I would go to a factory and I would say, let's make, 20 pieces. Some people will even make as low as 10 of robes. They're super easy to make for your product specifically. Normally I wouldn't tell people that they could find things for 10 MOQ, but with robes, it's really easy, especially if you're using existing fabric. Now your long-term strategy needs to be not buying things from Enoki because that's crazy expensive. But just to start, test and see, I think is a good thing. I would also, if you're an interior designer, throw in some pillows, throw in some sheets, throw in something like that because you have, you have the clientele and you have that kind of experience. So I say, why not? Pillows are also really easy to make. So you could try making 1 or 2 of them and also seeing how they do just to test. But yeah, that's how I would do it. I think, but I think your plan is good to just, use what you have, make a few, see how it sells, and then build from there. Okay, Kelsey. Mixed style clothing brand in Tokyo, Japan. Low MOQs, 30 to 50 pieces per style. I'd like to make products in China and Japan, ideally. China, your MOQ is a little too low. Japan, maybe. I'm saving up 16,000 USD in order to launch my brand. My question for you is, will I need to hire a lawyer and or accountant to make sure my brand is operating correctly? Is it something that most startup brands do, or is it not necessary? Okay, so I'm never going to tell you not to hire a lawyer. You should absolutely hire a lawyer if you can afford one for setting up your LLC or your corporation. I always hire a lawyer. I never DIY it. For getting your trademarks, I always hire a lawyer. I never DIY it because things can go wrong. For just general legal advice about, insurances that you need and certificates and things like that, hire a lawyer, not Chat GPT. If you can't afford it, don't let it stop you. Like, learn as you go. Don't be like, I have all these legal fees that I think I need. I can't ever do this. Like, don't let it stop you. But if you can afford it, absolutely. For accountant, same thing. If you can hire an accountant, if you can, afford to hire a bookkeeper, do it. If you can't, that's fine. Do this. Get a separate credit card. It can be a personal credit card. It doesn't have to be a business credit card. It could be at the bank you're at or a different bank. Put all of your business transactions on that card. This way, when it comes time to doing your business accounting, this credit card, is only business purchases. When people get started, they just, swipe their own card and it's a mess at the end of the year. So get a separate card, a debit card, or whatever it is you need, however you need to work it with like your financial situation. Keep all those transactions separate. So, this is personal, this is business. There are no questions, and that's going to make your life a lot easier if you can't hire or afford to hire someone to help you with all those things. Okay. I do consultations. They're $300 an hour. The way it works is you'll answer questions and I'll probably ask you some questions back because that's usually what happens. And I'll do research for half an hour on my own. Then we'll go to the call and we'll have the call together for half an hour with me explaining to you, what kind of direction and next steps you need to take and you asking questions, and then we can go from there. It is not, again, I'm considering getting rid of this similar to the $300 supplier list. The success rate isn't as high. Part of the reason is if you're coming in, you're getting your questions answered. With the Launch My Conscious line, you have weekly calls. So there's accountability. You're showing up every week and like there's progress that needs to be made. If you're just having a one-off call with me, we're not going to be able to cover everything. You're going to need more than one call. I can promise you that. The amount of calls you need is probably going to add up to become more expensive than the program. And you're not going to have the accountability and the timeline and also community and all of that. So ethically, I'm kind of on the fence. I wanted to have something cheaper than the program, but I don't think it's the most helpful thing. For now, I do have the consultancy, but or the consultancy call, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to have it for because at the end of the day, I have a successful like uh, business where I help bigger brands make product. I make a lot of money doing that. The coaching I do because I like it and I want to see people succeed. And if I'm offering something where people aren't succeeding, I don't want to be doing it. And what I'm noticing is I'm going to give it a little more time, but it's not converting into success the way the other things are. So that's my feelings on it. All right, that's everyone's questions. If you want to join the Launch My Conscious Line program, I have a discount for everyone, and then we'll do the giveaway. So if you type AMA 300, and I'll put in the link, you can get $300 off now. This is the lowest it's going to be. A lot of times people wait because they think there's going to be some sort of flash sale. There's not. This is it. Like I said, I'm raising the price for the program. Why is this only letting me send? Why can't I send to everyone? I cap it at 25. Because that's as much as I can really handle at one time. I don't know why I can't message everyone. Usually, oh, here, meeting group chat. Okay, here we go. Okay, so there's the link you can do. That's the code. Ask me AMA 300 for the discount. It's 25 people that I cap it at. Because it's important, right? Every week there's a live lesson and it's very much like this, except like I actually know you and your brand and we've been working on things together. So it's a lot more catered and it will help you move faster because I know you. As I mentioned, like 90% of this is applicable to like everyone, but that 10% that's applicable to your brand is what's going to actually move the needle for you. So I keep it small, and in the future, I might be making it even smaller just because it's nice to have that community and know everyone and interact with everyone and all that. Okay, so if anyone is who's still here wants to enter the raffle, I assume most people do, for half off the program, raise your hand with like one of the little emoji reaction things. If you're last time I did this, the person who won like still couldn't afford it and they didn't take it. And I thought it was a waste because someone else might have would have enjoyed it. So if you're not really seriously going to actually do it, don't raise your hand. Don't take it from someone else who really wants it and really wants to do it. I think sometimes people just like to see if they can win. Okay, we have Megan, Melissa, Holly, Sumana, Deborah, um, Andrea in the chat, and Akinbami in the chat, and I think and Bana, Andrea. We already have Sid, Rena. Okay. Jamie. Okay, someone who did not, just make sure I have everyone. Okay. Okay. Someone who didn't raise their hand, give me a number between 20, between 10 and 30. Put it in the chat. The first person that puts the 19. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Bana is the winner. So give me your email so I can give you the special code. You get the program for, was it 1,750? That's half of 3,500. And I need your email before we all sign off because I won't know how to contact you with the code. And that's it. This was long. This went for like 2 hours. All right, I've got your email. Perfect. I hope it helped everyone get a little bit more of a realistic perspective of what it's like starting a brand. And I think maybe the takeaway for a lot of people might have been that the things that they're focused on, they don't have to be as focused on, and maybe there are other things that they need to focus on to kind of move the needle. I think, you know, whether you work with me or not, or whether you, I don't know, whatever, you just have to kind of get started and do something. And like my final words of advice are just move cautiously. Don't trust there's a magic solution to things. Know that you have to test everything yourself. Be mindful of your budget and just move slow. If you move slow, you'll be okay. I think when people get into the most trouble, I signed up, although no one is replying to my emails. I just wanted to know how it's going to work because I keep just getting emails about signing up. I think, Nadine, I answered your email. Actually, Flavio has been really glitchy. That's who I used to send out my emails. Said, how's this working? Will you be starting the course soon, or do I have something? So the program right now, it's the sign up, and the first day of classes will be on pull up my calendar. April 17th. So April 17th, the program begins. You should have already gotten the Kajabi login. And let me just pull up your email. And basically it's going to go through everything. Every week there'll be a lesson. Every week there'll be office hours at alternating times. You'll watch the lesson. You'll come to office hours. You'll ask your questions. I'll answer them. If you can't come to office hours, it's fine. You'll get the recording, and then we have a group WhatsApp chat. So you'll watch the recording if you weren't able to make it, and then you'll chat with me on WhatsApp to get any follow-up clarification that you need. So it doesn't start until the 17th. You signed up early and you got the discount code. So now you just kind of have to wait for the 2 weeks. But everything will get going and we'll all start together at the same time. This way you're in a cohort and everyone's moving together as a unit, and it feels less kind of, you're not so lonely and alone. The code is good until tonight. So at midnight, the code is done and no more discounts. And like I said, I'm going to be raising the price for the 6-month course in the future. Agnes, thank you. Some parts are clear, and I think now how I want to approach it will be good. And I made the trademark search for the EU market during the call. Looks good. That's great. All right. What time zone? New York time zone. I do, even though I'm in India, I do everything in New York Eastern time zone. All right, cool. Thank you all for coming. I hope, again, whether you work with me or not, everyone continues to take steps to making progress towards their goals and their brands. And the name of my brand, oh, I'm not sharing that yet. That's going to be shared, I think, on launch day. So I have my samples. I had my photo shoot. I'm actually sharing it with like people inside because right now we still have the winter cohort of Launch My Conscious Line going. So they all know my brand and what I'm working on. And I'm actually going week by week and showing them exactly what it is that I'm doing and talking about, I've got the samples. I'm about to place a production order. I did my photo shoot. Website is up with a landing page. The market for this is very different. So I'm not using any of my look behind the scenes or anything like that as a funnel to this brand. I'm purely doing it on its own. And yeah, the other thing is when you join Lunch by Conscious Line, we have a special thing called the membership. And it's invitation only. And after you graduate the 6 months, you have an option to join. It's $200 a month. And what we do is we have twice a week accountability calls. You still get access to all the weekly Zoom calls for office hours. And we do live co-working sessions. So basically what we do is I go live on Zoom and I show you exactly how I'm like building my website or changing my website. I show you exactly how I'm doing my research for PR, finding the editors and reaching out to them and how I craft my pitches and all that. And then everyone does it in real time along with me, which is really productive because what I've realized, and I'll leave you on this, it's not about, there is no secret. There is no secret supplier. There is no secret PR strategy. There is no secret Facebook ads magic if you just make this setting. It's sitting down and it's doing the work. That's the magic, just doing it. And that's what I realized. And that's why in the membership, what we do is these co-working sessions where like we just sit and everyone has to do it. We're all literally pressing send to the editors. We're all literally posting on Instagram together to the editors. And that's what a lot of people need. And that's, again, if you don't work on me, just work with me, take that with you. It's working on your own and doing it. Like you can watch all the blog, watch all the YouTube. You could do that for the rest of your lives, but you have to do it at some point. So just start doing something, anything. You listen to me talk for 2 hours, like go and do something now, like make a post, email a supplier, do anything, just take action. Yes, everyone's going to get the recording. So that's everything. I'm going to leave you with that. And any questions, you can email me. I'm happy to chat and hopefully next time I do one of these, I'll be further along, or I think maybe I'll do one like in the fall again, because it's fun for me too to see what people are working on. Or if you want to just send an email and tell me some progress you've made, I'm always happy to see that too, because I find it interesting. Okay, cool. I'll see everyone, hopefully soon on Instagram too. Feel free to DM, comment, all that type of stuff. Happy to talk as long as you're not trolls. I'm getting so many trolls on Instagram. It's awful. Anyway, good luck, everyone. I'll see you soon.